You know, it's really hard to choose whether to play Chain Lightning, because it's awesome, powerful, and fun, or Lightning Spear Splintering Energy, because it's awesome, even more powerful, and fun. Huh.
¿Por qué no los dos?
Oh yes. Hello my fellow sorcerers then, and welcome to this beautiful mashup, this lovely hybrid of the peak of our powers. It's so satisfying to play, seeing the majesty of Chain Lightning's axially fly and explode, while also frozen orbs are, well, flying and exploding, with a swarm of conjurations still easily clearing at 20 stacks, splintering energies arcing everywhere, and just generally a wonderful time had by all. Massively damaging, immortal, comfortable to play, and lessens the need to thunder your keyboard through your desk, as you mostly just need to hold that infinite mana Chain Lightning button that I have built this into from the infinite mana Chain Lightning I did a while back now. So the core concept here then is fairly straightforward. A simple question of what if you take the infinite mana Chain Lightning, plug fractured Winterglass in, and then make both shine as much as possible in perfect harmony. And that's what we've done here. Now, I'm not about to sit here and claim it's some incredible feat of 400 IQ thinking to go, hey, Chain Lightning summons a lot of lightning spears because of the unstable current uptime and its attack speed, so what if we combine it with, you know, the amulet that powers a pure splintering energy build? That might be fun. As obviously, that's a very kind of basic combination to try, and to think otherwise would be a hilarious bit of egotisticalness, but the way that I have rendered this build into reality, the synergies that I've chosen, is very much something I am happy with, on top of one simple yet significant bit of tech that I have worked in that I have not seen anywhere else that adds just that extra little kick to push it over the edge that I am very chuffed with, and we'll go into that in detail soon. But for now, you're seeing the results, right? Doing a quick casual pit 120, nothing insane, but certainly nothing lame, in 6 minutes is pretty damn good, considering I don't even have 12 out of 12 masterworked gear. Never mind the perfect affixes on said gear perfectly hit at 4, 8, and 12. The top end potential of this is massive. Then we have your infernal hordes, where it farms like a machine. I have killed the tier 8 council in 2 minutes with this, and it's lovely to actually see their health, you know, meaningfully melting down while applying damage to them. You could 100% get a sub 1 minute kill with the aforementioned perfect gear that I don't currently have yet. Especially given the fact I literally got the worst 3 council members possible for, well, any build, but especially this build with its AoE explosions of lightning. We have Flame, Maelstrom, and Shadow who spend all of their time apart from each other for the most part. We don't have a Cursed or Cruel to just camp on each other in the middle and burst down. So the fact that this still recorded a 2 minute or so time, despite having to chase Flame around the arena for most of it, is really exciting to me for its potential. But it's certainly already strong enough to more than comfortably handle anything you kind of need it to do in any given endgame situation. And one thing I really wanted to make work for it was pure boss damage, which, as you can see, yeah, when it comes to chunking down a single health bar, it really gets the job done. So ultimately, if you've ever had trouble deciding whether you want to play pure lightning spear splintering energy or play Chain Lightning, you now have to wonder no longer, because simply play both at once. This is, well, I mean, obviously one of Sorcerer's best builds of the season, because it's a hybrid of Sorcerer's 2 best builds of the season. Its power is phenomenal, its potential is even higher than I can show here by a fair amount, And most importantly to me, it's just a really entertaining hybrid to play that gives you a little bit of something that the pure versions of each build just don't. And just to highlight, I am currently making this build guide on Monday the 19th of August, yet it will be released a fair amount later than that, if all goes to plan, as I want to sneak ice spikes in the middle once Blue Rose is finished as a build I've always loved, so if there's any significant improvements or developments to this, I will put them in now, and if there's no jump cut, then all is well. So that said, let's look at that little bit of spice I mentioned, this experiment I did that has essentially resulted in a discovery that makes every Chain Lightning build better, not just this one. Here we are then. You will notice that I have got this. Spending mana spawns a hydra. So if we look at my enchantments, I do not have the Firebolt enchantment. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, yeah, we know you can use Hydra to apply your burning. We did that with a Frozen Orb last season. It freed up the enchantment slot because your Frozen Orbs spawn your Hydras and then they do the burning. That is true, but we are working with Winterglass here, and Winterglass, if you don't cast the Frozen Orb yourself, doesn't spawn a conjuration, so it can't spawn Hydra. That's not where I'm going with it. One thing that Axial Conduit does, more than any other Sorcerer build by a long way, is spend mana. This is normally a useless enchantment, because 200 mana is a lot to get a 6-second Hydra. That's like so pathetic. However, look how fast we go through mana here. We permanently have 2 Hydras spawning and spawning and spawning and spawning and spawning and spawning because we just churn through the blue stuff. Which means that we can play Hydra enchant with Axial Chain Lightning and use it, yes, as your source of burning, even though we're not casting Frozen Orb and therefore not spawning Hydras with Frozen Orb directly. This does 2 things. It gives us, yes, a source of burning, and you might be like, well, you're still using Hydra enchant, not Firebolt enchant, so it's not like you've saved an enchantment slot, you've just changed which way the enchantment's giving you burning. On the surface, yes, that's exactly what I've done. But what is a Hydra that Firebolt isn't? A conjuration. So what do we now permanently have because of this? 2 extra stacks of conjuration mastery. So we get ourselves a load more damage. And I do mean it, because we're working with Winterglass, we get 10% multiplicative damage per stack. That's an extra 20% damage on top of the build without losing anything else that we want. I told you it was subtle, but it is a meaningful difference that adds that little, as I said, kick to really help out. Because we otherwise just never spawn Hydras because we're not casting Frozen Orb, this means we eternally get 2 extra stacks of Conjuration Mastery while retaining Burning Synergy, and that is just a distinct improvement. Just to really prove the point then, here I am with andariels off and some random life on hit gear thrown in to recreate the effect but without the poison. We start churning away with our Chain Lightnings, and you can see that there is that ticking grey dot burning number over every single target dummy. So even in AoE mob clearing situations, because you're spawning the Hydras so fast randomly all over the place, and they shoot the second they spawn, they actually hit everything really consistently. Every single one of these target dummies has 95% plus uptime on is on fire because of how this functions. So you're not giving up any uptime if you were at all concerned by that, even on large groups of enemies. And then, of course, against just a single boss, yeah, you permanently do get that burning on it. Of course you do, because the Hydra has nothing else to shoot, and there you are, you can see it ticking away and away and away. This is awesome. And the thing is, you actually spawn the Hydras so fast, and because they attack as soon as they spawn, you almost make them hit faster than if they were just stood there firing, which is hilarious. And the last little benefit benefit to this build specifically, because we are using Winterglass, the hydras themselves will add extra frozen orbs that they fire out from the Winterglass, which is then more explosions of frozen orb to lower your cooldown of ice blades and lightning spears to then summon more ice blades and lightning spears. So that's why I wanted this build to be the one that I debut this little tech on, because it especially helps it. So yeah, that's something I'm very happy with. As I said, a subtle little change that I tested as I've been experimenting with ways to actually use the incredible mana drain that Chain Lightning has to our advantage to do something useful. Like, I tried Banish Lord's Talisman too, but that's just not really worth it so far. So I'm really glad this worked out. I'm very happy with it, and I hope you guys like this tweak. Let's get into the details then. Now, we normally start with the skill tree, so we're going to start with the skill tree. Anyway, 2 points in to anything here, though I would still recommend Fireball, as it might have a fringe use I'll talk about later, but for once it's not going into our enchantment slot. Over to your cause, where we want 1 in Devastation, then max out Dominance, as with the infinite mana we still get to use it on the Chain Lightnings, max out said Chain Lightning, take it to Enhanced and then Greater for the extra damage, as we don't need it to generate crackling energy. Grab your charged bolts into Enhanced and then Destructive for the damage reduction. We have permanent unstable currents, so this is just a permanent chunk of DR. Over to our defensives, the usual teleport into Enhanced and Shimmering for all of the goodness that teleport does, 3 out of 3 glass cannon for the free damage as we're super hard to kill, ice armor into Enhanced, and then mystical for that lovely boss stagger damage. Over to our conjurations, where we get the Hydra with Enhanced and then summoned so that it burns, and we put that into our first enchantment slot. Ice blades taken to Enhanced and then summoned for the cooldown reduction, where we put in our second enchantment slot. Your lightning spear taken to Enhanced and then finally invoked, and 3 out of 3 in conjuration mastery, and then the usual double defensive of align the elements mana shields into protection. Over to your mastery, where we want the 1 in Inner Flames to get the 3/3 devouring blaze for that lovely burning synergy, and then 1 in static discharge just so we technically summon crackling energy, mainly for the charged glyph, in fact entirely for the charged glyph. Then we come over to our ultimates, where we get unstable currents and the attack speed that it gives. This is everything here with it permanently up, loads of lightning spears, loads of extra chain lightnings, loads of goodness. Grab your coursing currents into your 3/3 electrocution to get that extra DR, and then over to Via's mastery, which is our key passive of choice, as it's really bloody good. Only one more thing of note to say is, if you're doing easier content or you feel tanky enough, you want to get rid of charged bolts, enhanced and then destructive, and then come down here and go permafrost and 2 into hoarfrost for the extra damage to frozen, which we'll be doing to normal enemies with tempering, and then bosses when they're staggered. Otherwise, you have it as I have in order to help keep you alive, whichever feels more comfortable for you. Other than that, that is your skill tree. Gear-wise then, starting with your gems, you want critical strike damage in your weapons, you want armor in your jewelry, and then in your armor either health or topazes for intelligence, depending on how you're feeling, what content you're doing, if you're feeling squishy or not, mix and match, so on and so forth. Rubies to not die, topaz to kill faster, that is your simple choice. For your aspects then, we want splintering energy for the lightning spear to do its thing, obviously a big part of this, and why we're stacking as much critical strike damage as possible, on top of it just being, you know, good. I've still not found a max roll one, which is insane, but there we are. Over to Conceited, which is a huge damage increase normally, but especially at the moment where it's double dipping and not working correctly in our favor. We want this essentially every build, as it's such a huge increase. We have the Starlight to give us the infinite mana from the overhealing life on hit, triggering it endlessly with Chain Lightning, and then finally Lightning Rod for that lovely increase to boss damage. 50% to do 80% multiplicative more, 40% is the average there, of course, and it's a big increase. Now, technically, you could use something like Conceited or Shredding Blades here, and that would help the Lightning Spear splintering energy side of things, but I found this really does give that little little bit of an extra push to your boss damage, but any of the above three are fine. Defensively, or I should say utility-wise, we have Orange Herald then. This powers your infinite unstable currents, and we put that on your chest, which does need to be normal to have it over something like Tyrael's. Then for your uniques, we have Esu's Heirloom for the lovely crit chance and damage, Axial Conduit to, you know, make the whole chain lightning thing work, your Fractured Winterglass to make the whole, you know, Frozen Orb lightning spear spam thing work, and then your mythics where we want Ring of Starless Skies for everything fantastic that it does. If you don't have this, you can still play this, you just put Tal Rashes on, but this is a lot better for what we're doing. Then the required andariels visage for the life on hit to work with Starlight Loop and get everything off the ground. When we're looking at affixes then, it's very much straightforward. On the chest, to start with, you need to have either a GA armor roll or a normal armor roll that you do hit with one of your 4, 8, 12 tempers so we can reach our armor cap. Offensively then, critical strike damage is our number one thing that we want. Critical strike chance, also very, very good. Cooldown reduction on the focus where we can get it, and then you are after ranks of chain lightning or ranks of core skills. We want to be balancing our critical strike chance so that we have a good amount like this, and then when we dash with Esus, we go up to 100%, so I could have a little bit less here. Then you have your usuals like vulnerable damage, like intelligence, maximum life, and so on and so forth. That is totally fine too. Tempering wise then, on your weapons, on both of them, you want ideally critical strike damage and chance for chain lightning to cast twice. I got locked into vulnerable here, though I did manage to get it correctly on the focus. On your ring, you want unstable currents, cooldown reduction, and critical strike damage. On your gloves, you guessed it, critical strike damage, and then either chance to immobilize or freeze. On your chest, you want yourself either freeze or immobilize, ideally the one that you don't have on your gloves, that way we can freeze them and immobilize them, and both of that gives us more multipliers, and then either warmth or max health is fine. For your masterworking, anything that you particularly want to hit, mainly just critical strike damage to power up both our general damage and the splintering energy aspect. I am sat at 1300% in this build, which, you know, is fine. Then the usual conjuration, mastery ranks, and the cooldowns reduced on your Winterglass. For how to play it then, it is very much straightforward. You want to consistently spam out your chain lightnings, ideally stand on top of the enemy you're killing for maximum damage, use unstable currents on cooldown because you will permanently have it. Look at the cooldown melt, we will comfortably have it back before we even need it again. Press lightning spear and ice blade on cooldown every time, and then simply use teleport as you need it, either to speed along or to just get the DR on top of a boss's face, and then save ice shield for if you need it to survive, or the boss is staggered and you want the damage increase. It really is just quite the do-everything with just a few little things to think about. Paragon-wise then, follow me point for point as usual, and let's do this thing. Up and right through Elementalist to the glyph slot where we find Tactician and activate it with the Dex, going up for Erudite, and then up and left through Elemental Balance. Into our Enchantment Master board where we initially go left in order to grab Elementalist. I have one spare point, so I've put it here just to help Frigid Fate a little bit more, and then we want to head straight right down to Elemental Balance, to this Intelligence, up to the glyph where we have an Activate Elementalist. Go straight up to this Willpower, right to Erudite, continue all the way up, curve round and get Ruinous. We need the extra non-physical damage, and then we want to head right into Burning Instinct. We continue along the way and up into Safeguard, and then go down from this int to grab Cinders, then carry along, getting all the extra decks along the way, doing this lovely loop to the glyph where Destruction destruction is, and then down to smoldering embers for 2 more bits of dex. Continuing out right over here to this gate where we will find Frigid Fate. Arranged like so, with oppressive in the top left, we want to head straight down to this dex. We'll do a little cheeky detour in order to grab said oppressive, and then we want to head straight down to this vulnerable where we find ourselves Conjurer activated with the int helped by chilling, and then right through weakness. At this dex we detour round to Frigid Fate and then continue grabbing guarded along the way to the next board, which is going to be your elemental summoner board. Arranged like so, we want to initially go right up to this int through Conjurer to the glyph where we find and activate charged. Heading down from charged through these 2 ints, grabbing elemental summoner along the way, and then getting some more attack speed from Swift Conjurer. Then we go up from the glyph through the int into the next board, which is going to be your Ceaseless Conduit, arranged with the glyph in the bottom right. Head to the glyph like slow, going through the decks on the way to get and activate Flame Feeder, and grab Galvanic Catalyst 2. Up and right through more decks to the final board, which as you might expect is your Static Surge, arranged like this, glyph closest to the gate, head to it via the decks, get all of the decks alongside Incapacitate to get and activate Exploit. That then is your Paragon board, and I'm pretty pleased with it. So there we have it, everybody. My take on combining both Winterglass and your Axial Conduit for a lovely hybrid experience with a cheeky bit of Hydra tech that I'm very pleased with, and all in all, just a really fun time for Sorcerer, as indeed this entire season is. For now then, like if you enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more, consider supporting the future channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.